Simon Hypixel wants feedback on Hytale's mining, and specifically wants Hawkon to make a video about it. I am not Hawkon, but I've got to put my mining degree to use somehow. So here is how I would improve Hytale's mining. Powerful caving, more material uses, underground lore, and blast mining. Let's dive into each part. First and foremost is prioritizing the best type of mining out there, caving. Dashing through sprawling cave systems in Minecraft is my favorite way to find resources, perfectly balancing risk, adventure, and fun. The problem is, it's not very efficient in Minecraft. One issue is that Minecraft's ore generation increases as players go deeper, and caves tend not to hug the bottom of the world, reducing ore density. This is a pretty easy fix for Hytale, simply use an ore distribution close to what Minecraft had before 1.18. To be honest, I have no idea what Hytale's current ore distribution is, as I've only played the game for about 5 hours in total, but Simon did mention that ore distribution feels off currently, so I would imagine it's on the table to be changed. I do actually have plans to test Hytale's ore distribution in my Hytale series in the future, but for now I lack the time and willingness to do so. Hytale should avoid strip mining at all costs, as it is super boring, and this is the Minecraft strip mining, not the real life strip mining. Those are very different. I tested caving and strip mining for half an hour each, and I got way more ore from caving, which is great. I also had way more fun caving, as the cave shapes are varied nicely and there are mob nests scattered around, whereas while I was strip mining, I found myself constantly checking my timer to see if I could stop yet, which obviously is not very good gameplay. My one piece of feedback for caving is that shallow caves should be a little bit flatter so that they tend to interconnect a little bit more, since the ones that I went to at the beginning quickly went so deep that the difficulty was much higher than my gear level, and I had to face the dreaded lava frog with half armor and a stone sword. I also love that you only lose some of your stuff when you die. I had initially doubted this system, and Simon, I am sorry, it was completely the right decision, since you have enough left over to feasibly track down your death marker and retrieve your stuff, which makes dying still feel bad, because obviously dying is never a great thing, but it's not something that you can't recover from that would make you want to maybe quit the game. Blast mining is next, using explosions to dig, and it would be a great addition to quickly excavate more space. There would be two forms of this. One would be with regular explosives. It wouldn't drop items from destroyed blocks, and it would have a fairly large blast size and a fairly consistent blast shape. This way, players would be able to clear large areas by digging a tunnel, placing explosives on the walls or the floor, and blowing them up, which is a much faster and more fun way than mining full rooms out by hand if you wanted to do any underground building projects. The second form would allow players to mine large quantities of ores and rocks using controlled explosives, which would be crafted the same as regular explosives, but with some extra items thrown in there, maybe something like copper to imply there's a little more technology going on here, it's a little fancier. These would have a much smaller blast size, maybe blowing up like a 3x3x5 cube out of the surface that they were placed onto, and they would drop items and not necessarily destroy existing items on the ground. This way, players with a lot of resources could set up large-scale operations that would be faster than the alternatives and provide a lot of bulk material in the late game without making mining a totally brainless activity. If it were perfectly balanced, it would even maybe give slightly less ore than caving in exchange for getting a ton of stone and other building materials, and in theory being slightly safer. Material balance is a decent way to encourage mining in Hytale, since different ores are currently found in different zones. This means that players can actually just cut straight to Zone 4, get the best gear, and never need to mine again. From what I've read, currently the best material out there is adamantine, with two theoretically better materials, those being mithril and onyxium, which are currently not obtainable in exploration mode. My solution to the balancing issue is the same as everybody else's: horizontal balancing. This is where different materials have different stats that amount to a similar overall performance as the other materials, which actually already kind of exists in-game for armor. Thorium has poison resistance, cobalt has increased signature attack damage, and Chork armor has increased charged attack damage. There's also this hood, which has fire resistance and also increases your mana. I'm not quite sure what that does because I've not fooled around with magic very much, but I'm sure that's pretty good as well. Other modifiers that they could make is to increase their knockback resistance, increase stamina regeneration, or decrease stamina usage, or they could give more physical, magical, or projectile damage protection. For weapons, several stats could be changed, such as swing speed, special charge rate, blocking stamina usage, damage, and knockback. For tools, the mining speed and durability could scale against each other, and if tool signatures are ever added, they could have different signatures, like maybe one pickaxe would mine 3 blocks forward, one pickaxe would mine 3 blocks across, and one pickaxe would mine 3 up and down. That would all encourage some players to diversify their gear, but in the end, many players would still only gather enough resources for one set of any of the top metals and use that one forever because it's good enough. So there needs to be a little more encouragement to collect alternative materials. This is where we give each material its own unique use, which is already implemented by making players use many different items to upgrade workbenches, but it can be improved so much. The first way to do this is to make certain metals more compatible with certain elements, so that a thorium water staff would be weaker than a cobalt water staff, but a thorium wind staff would be stronger than a cobalt wind staff, making each desirable in their own way. Alternatively, and the idea I prefer to be honest, is giving every material its own technology. Copper could be used for wiring in a future tech system, thorium could be used as a power source, since it can be used for nuclear power in real life, cobalt could be used for magnets and energy storage, gold for complex components, etc. The example I used is all kind of interlocking and very specific to a technology/redstone system, but they could also use unrelated systems, like making iron used for making boats and the like. Maybe thorium would be super valuable to outlanders and can help get them onto your side. Cobalt can make jump pads, and adamantine could be used to make golems that protect your base, sorta stuff like that. This would mean that each material has its own use separate from the other materials, so it stops being a case of, oh, adamantine is the best, I'll just get that, or oh, thorium and cobalt are similar, so I only need one of them, and becomes, hey, if I want to do this one thing, I need to collect thorium to enable it. Ideally, these would all be items that you'd craft more than once, so there's never a time when you have more of a material than you will ever need, like players often get with stuff like lapis lazuli in Minecraft. So now, mining has an adventure component in the caving to make it fun, and every material has its own unique use to make them desired, but we can still add a little more spice to the underground to make players want to descend for the sake of being underground rather than mining itself. We do this by adding lore underground. Obviously, Slothians are already underground with Zone 4 jungles, which is fantastic motivation to explore the Zone 4 caves. Goblins are also in the game, although I don't know if they have any associated lore or prefabs right now. Stuff like this is fantastic, because then players enter caves searching for goblin lairs, dungeons, hidden libraries containing lore, or mobs deep down that can be tamed and brought to the surface, or maybe that have a specific drop, and the mining becomes second to the adventure, rather than the driving force of the adventure, because fundamentally, mining for the sake of mining will always feel like a chore. In the end, if Hypixel refine their ore distribution to make caving more enjoyable and use WorldGen v2 to add even more cave variety, they will have a pretty decent short-term system. Medium term, they should definitely do some gear rebalancing, add unique and desirable uses for each metal, and potentially incorporate blast mining, which would give them a very solid system. But long term, if they want to make it absolutely perfect, they should add reasons other than mining to explore the underground, like goblin lairs, exclusive mobs, buried libraries, and more. A full underground storyline separate from the Cursebreaker arc or eventual Gaia vs. Farron arc would perhaps not make mining itself fun, but it would become less of a chore that you need to spend time on, and more of a passive collection of materials you find as you explore through the storyline that happens beneath the surface. Thank you all for watching this video. Let me know in the comments how you think Hypixel should approach mining in Hytale. Please use code MUFFIN when you buy the game if you haven't already purchased it, and until next time, stay hypey!